What's happening, gamers? I just got my license. This means freedom. This means I can go wherever I want. You know, now that I'm trying it for the first time, I gotta say, I don't get the hype. Oh, this is disappointing. Now what am I supposed to do with my license? What do normal people do with them?
And a good day to you!
Life could be worse. When people hear license, they think of this. A little card with your name, face, address, basically anything you want on the internet on it. But really, a license is just anything that legally lets you do something you couldn't otherwise. Movies, shows, books, some people, basically anything copyrighted has associated licenses needed to create something with it. And of course, this includes video games, which means at some point, a lawyer had to say this was okay. The story of licensed games begins in August of 1976, when the arcade game Motocross decided to do some thinning and create the game Fawn. Fundamentally, the exact same game, but with the character Fawn from Happy Days in it. It's a solid strategy. Most people didn't know what Motocross was, but if they knew Happy Days, they'd be likely to play anyway. Plus, a arcade game only like a quarter. If you don't like it, you're not really losing much. But then we decided to let the devil into our homes with the Atari 2600. Instead of paying each time to play a game, you just buy it once, and you own it. It's a cool idea, right? Each game was $50, which doesn't sound too bad. I mean, this was $80. But when adjusted for inflation, it cost, what? When you're paying this much for a game, now there's some high stakes. You're choosing this over eating for the next month, so you gotta choose wisely. But this is where licensed games pull out their trap card. The big reason why they are part of so many people's childhood. Appealing to parents. With a lot of video game players being dumb, stupid children, they can't exactly buy their own games. They're broke as don't know how to drive to the store, can't relate. This is where their parents step in. The problem is, they're dumb, stupid who barely know what a video game is. They don't know what a Xenoblade Chronicles is, or why they made 4 of them, and this one doesn't count, this one has 3 versions, and these 3 aren't connected, but also they are. But they do know Spider-Man. If you don't know what game your kid would like, just substitute that for knowing a show they watch. That's how I ended up with all of these. And licensed game makers knew that's how their consumers saw it. So they were less concerned with making a good game instead of just making a game. Put something on a shelf and people will buy it not knowing any better. Hey, that means it's time for my hourly check on the economy. It's dead. Going back to Atari allowed me, a high school marketing student, to give you a lesson. You have a product that is the first of its kind. In this case, a video game console with changeable cartridges. You're charging over $100 for each one, so you need to sell good games so the consumer doesn't regret their purchase. You sold E.T., didn't you? E.T. for Atari 2600 is widely regarded as one of, if not the worst game of all time. Either you play as E.T. from the hit movie E.T. as you land on Earth and try to escape the government. At least that's what Wikipedia says. In game, you run around trying to flip these objects, I don't know what they are, and a guy shows up and chases you. Sometimes you fall in a hole, you can leave it pretty much instantly, so it's not much more than annoying. Especially since you can fall right back in the same hole immediately after getting out of it. And sometimes when you go to a different screen, there'll be a hole right on the border, so you just instantly fall in it. There are symbols at the top of the screen, I don't know what they mean, and then on the bottom there's a number. When that runs out, at least the game's over, dang it. The game is so bad, some people consider it the cause of the video game crash of 1983. There were so many unsold copies they had to dump them in a landfill in New Mexico. I mean, look at this. There are enough games here to drop an elephant. Although looking at other Atari games from this time, is it really fair to call E.T. that much worse? And that's just considered one of the best Atari games, and I have just as much no clue what's going on here. And before some middle-aged Atari fan calls me a dumb, stupid child, you're right. In my opinion, the NES is where licensed games truly begin to take shape. And I mean that literally. Unlike on Atari, where for all I know my brother likes to call it so for E.T., here I am undeniably an adolescent disformed listening reptile. Are the games actually any better? Yeah, I guess for anything better than Atari. The only licensed NES game I have is Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I got this and a bunch of other NES games in a bag I found in my grandmother's closet. Most of them are in good condition, but this one looks like someone uses toilet paper. Well, let's pop it in and try it out. Let's load a ROM and try it out. It's a classic Fox standard beat 'em up, but of course it never has the classic unholy NES unfairness. They throw so many enemies at you, and unlike a game like Ninja Gaiden with snappy fluid movements that makes you feel like you can overcome the levels with skill, these ninjas are clunky as hell. Instead of lives, you switch between the 4 turtles going until they're all dead. We don't stop the Billy Mikey, we keep going till we have Shredder's head. They each have their own signature weapon, but there's no real reason to switch between them. The only real difference I can find are Mikey and Raph have a really short range, Leonardo's range is slightly longer, and then Donatello has a really big range, but it's really slow. There's no real reason to use Mikey and Raph unless you have to, because Leonardo's the same speed. So it's really just picking Leo if you want to attack at close range, or Donnie if you want to keep the enemies at bay. But then when those two are dead, I don't want to use either of these guys, but I guess I have to. In my opinion, TMNT games didn't really reach their stride until the more traditional 2.5D beat-em-up style of the SNES. But the epitome of licensed games on NES has to be the Disney game. These games are iconic. Almost as iconic as Nintendo's first-party offering. DuckTales was so famous it got remade for Wii U, and later, it and some other Capcom NES games got ported to modern consoles in the Disney Afternoon Collection. This doesn't really happen anymore. No one's just dying to play iCarly DS on Switch. Not that you can play the Disney Afternoon Collection there, but still. So let's check them out. Starting with the most iconic Disney NES game, Disney's Adventures in the Magic Kingdom. This game isn't based on any movie, but instead the Disney Magic Kingdom theme park. I mean, who doesn't want a game based on a government in Florida? They can have a nuclear reactor. They can have a platformer. I actually really like this idea. A lot of the attractions have their own specific lore that you won't really learn about in the park. So it's cool to reimagine them in a world that's not bothered by Opexky logic. Haunted Mansion implies you jump to your death, and until they enact capital punishment, they can't do much more than imply. Starting out, we have the Hub Ward. This kid doesn't believe I'm Mickey's friend, but I know Doll's girlfriend's name is Daisy, so I bet you feel stupid now. We enter the store and now we're in an unfair 2D platformer. This seems familiar. Licensed games aren't exactly known for being original. They tend to just do what they was A, easy to make, and 2, popular at the time. And during the NES era, platformers were king. There's a lot you can do with this though. Mario and Contra can both be seen as platformers, and they're nothing alike. On Contra you kill humanity, while Mario prefers more torturous methods. But like, would it kill them to try something more original? Most of these games are interchangeable besides the character. If I took Mickey Mouse here and replaced him with Garfield, would anyone really tell the difference? No! So they did. They released a Mickey Mouse game, that's also a Garfield game. And just to be safe, it's also a Ghostbusters game. At least they released each version in a different region. Garfield Labyrinth in Europe, Real Ghostbusters in America, Mickey Mouse 4 and Mahono Labyrinth in Japan. So realistically, no one's gonna be tricked into buying each game thinking they're different. That just makes it even more confusing, like why are you doing it then? Did Japan just refuse to have Garfield? There's a few small changes between versions. For example, they changed the bombs to wands in Mickey Mouse's version, but since these versions are pretty much universally the same, they just feel out of place. Like this enemy thing, it could be a ghost from Ghostbusters, I could also see it being a hat from Mickey Mouse, maybe the Sorcerer's Apprentice. And Garfield, I just have no clue what it could be. And the whole game revolves around this stick thing that just feels out of place in all versions. It has no connection to Garfield. It might be a wand for Mickey, but it doesn't look like these wands. And maybe it's a blaster from Ghostbusters, but it still feels out of place because it's actually a pneumatic weapon from P.P. Hammer and his pneumatic weapon. The original game for the Amiga and Commander 64 that all these versions are a port of. An unlicensed port, because if you're gonna scum out and release the same game 3 times, you might as well go all the way. Thankfully, after all my complaining about unoriginality, someone finally listened 20 years ago in Japan. In Japan, visual novels are a popular genre, where you get visuals, and then the novel happens. Never really caught on over here though. My guess is they're just too hard. What are these symbols? Something else created in Japan is anime. Animation that, unlike Western animation, have escape being seen as just for kids, allowing them to get away with stuff you can't do on Teletoon. It's most popular for being that one thing that weird kid in your class watched in high school. Guess what I watched? Starting us off, we have JoJo's Bizarre Adventure for the SNES. Technically, this is a manga game because it released in August of 1993, and the anime following is part of JoJo's didn't release until 2014, unless you count the 1993 OVA. But that didn't release until November, so for a few months, it was a manga game. I take JoJo seriously, okay? I made this arrow from the show as an actual school project that I handed in for an actual grade. And considering it haunts my dreams, I think I deserved more than a 60% on it, Miss Carol. This game follows part 3 of the manga. JoJo's is split into different parts, each one following a different part of the Joestar bloodline. I tell you what the game's about, but it's entirely in Japanese. Thankfully, the Kobo team on ROMhacking.net translated the whole thing, and yep, I still can't read. Thankfully, I'm a master of interpreting, so I can tell what they're saying based purely off context clues. So here we have Craig. He's in prison for insurance fraud, and he's pissed. So he becomes half naked in purple. Thankfully, his friend Old Man Sanders comes to bust him out, along with Cornell. He tried to find the perfect flame grilled chicken recipe, but instead he found out how to become a flame-making chicken. The three set out as a team of traveling dermatologists to find this guy. A man so white he literally melts in the sun. Along the way they made Elon, a man with the power to create emeralds. He used to sell them to make money, but now he instead makes a fortune selling crypto on Twitter. And Jean-Pierre Paranalpha, his sister was killed by a man with two right hands, and he swore to avenge her. Along your travel, white man's henchmen will try to get in your way, and you gotta fight them. It's a standard RPG battle system with the main difference being this check option. JoJo is a show that perfectly mixes strategic elements into a fight, unlike anything else. And this is represented with the check option. If you're fighting an enemy you can't beat, give this a hit and I'll give you a strategy to win. Or not. But I discovered I'm a lot like those dumb stupid f***ing kids who get satisfied just by controlling Mickey Mouse. Cause I'm so happy just looking at these sprites. Comparing them to the manga and anime, they're so detailed. They even got his jawline right. This shows so much skill in pixel art creation. But what if we didn't need pixel art? What if we could just take out from the anime and put it in the game? Starting with the Sega CD, games were put on guess what, so you had a lot more stores to work with in making a game. So you didn't need to use pixel art, you could just take real video images and put them in a game. For example, Sonic 3 and Knuckles starts off with an in-game cutscene of ants stealing the Chaos Emeralds. That bitch! It's simple, to the point, and gives you all the context you need. But then Sonic CD has this beautiful opening cutscene. The animation and movements are so fluid, and it's just so charming with Sonic's fat little head and his boxing of fists. And in true Sonic fashion, even the music's great. This is easily the second best Sonic game opening. Number one being Sonic and the Black Knight, of course. The only problem is, I'm catfishing you. This is what the animators made, and this is what appeared on the Sega CD. So while we don't need pixel art, we just need art, then we add the pixels later. The same was true for Sega's next console, the Sega Saturn. The Sega Saturn was a commercial failure. With games like Sonic that are so infamously bad, people still complain about them to this day. So what do we need to save it? Depressed kids! Sega may have stopped making consoles, but at least we got Evangelion games. Evangelion is a show about children to pilot these mechs called Evangelions to fight these beasts called angels. It starts off like a normal sci-fi show, but as it goes on, it slowly divulges. As these children are faced with being the only thing that stands between the world and destruction, and their own inner trauma. Because of this unique take on the mech genre, some see it as one of the greatest shows of all time. What do I think about it? I don't like Evangelion. They spend so much time on these introspective scenes and these trippy visuals that they forgot to give the show a plot. So many important details of the world are just never explained. And you pretty much have to go to the games if you want any details on them. Oh, this guy? Go to the games. What are the Dead Sea Scrolls they keep talking about? Go to the games! Even the angels. The main antagonists of this show besides mental illness are never explained. But hey, you can check out the Ayanami Raising Project, a game where Ray is basically a Tamagotchi. I just spent the whole show too confused as to what's going on to have any brain power left to figure out all the subtle details. So I just spent the 25 episodes bored. Since the game has a plot the show should have had, let's try them out. Starting with the game that began this Gamma Wikipedia page, Evangelion First Impression for the Sega Saturn. This game is in Japanese. And since there's no subtitles that I can't read, I don't know what's going on. Apparently it's about the show's main protagonist Shinji getting amnesia while fighting an angel, and that's about it. You do a simulation where you pretend to fight an angel, you move your character on this grid thing, and you do a slot machine. I don't fully understand it. He goes to school, you have some dialogue choices, then the angel comes back, Shinji gets his memory back at the end. The game's only like 30 minutes. I wouldn't know though, because in the first 10 minutes, mine. There's so little care about preserving this game that I can only find one ROM online. And not only does it crash, but the battle system looks like this, instead of like this, which is what it's supposed to look like. Can you blame me for not understanding? Not only that, but the overlay doesn't appear, so I don't know any of the dialogue options. What I think happened is no one bothered to get around the game's piracy measures, so they all get set off, making the game unplayable. You may say, how can you judge a game when you haven't even played it? Well, to that I say Mitch B also said it's bad, and if there's one person I trust, it's Mitch B. Other than being unplayable, the animation's actually pretty good. It was so good I had to check it wasn't just taken from the anime. And no, as far as I can tell, it's all original. The thing is that enough, there's 2 Girlfriend of Steel games. It's like Evangelion dating sims. The first one is Shinji trying to date the new girl in his class named I don't give a shit, because the second one has yes! We can date Koro! Koro is one of 2 things I like from this show. Oh, but I said Shinji as Asuka. Oh, I like Rei. You're wrong. Koro x Shinji is the only correct ship. Koro is the only person that gives Shinji a shred of happiness. Not that he deserves it, but Koro wants Shinji for some reason, and I want Koro to get whatever he wants. And yes, I am pissed that Netflix made them just friends. I'm also pissed that Netflix got rid of Fly Me to the Moon as the ending song because they didn't want to pay for the license just for Squid Game, a Netflix exclusive, to use it in a scene that's almost certainly a reference to Evangelion. This has nothing to do with Koro, but she's been bothering me for a long time. The game's not fully animated though, even with still images, it looks kinda worse in my opinion. It's understandable since these games are a lot longer. Now sacrificing visuals is what it takes for 4 more hours of Car World content. I'll play them on a goddamn calculator. I've had enough talking about Evangelion though. Instead let's talk about Evangelion. This one's on N64 though. Unlike the other 2, this one's not a visual novel and has some more traditional gameplay. So what's the gameplay like? It does still use animated segments, but these aren't original and are just ripped from the anime. But due to the original animation, it makes up for just so much fan service, not that kind. It has these beautiful models that look perfectly designed with the N64's polygonalness in mind. So how do they play? Unlike the others, the game even follows the anime story, not just in the cutscenes, but in the gameplay. In the first level, the change to Evangelion goes berserk like it did in the first episode, and you can get a second chance at the level. In level 5, the Evangelions do the full dance they did in episode 9. So, how's the gameplay? And if you beat the game on hard, you even get a 13th bonus level based on the end of Evangelion movie. I won't spoil it because it's the second thing I like about Evangelion, because along with all the mind bullshit, I wanted to give it a plot. So instead, here's my artistic rendition. I know I've let you down. I've been a fool to myself. I thought that I could live for no one else. When you get to the Magma Diver level, they even have... Okay, so who's ready to talk about the gameplay? The game doesn't have just one style of gameplay, it switches from level to level. This is cool in theory. I mean, in the anime they fought the angels in a bunch of different ways too. But really this just means they do a bunch of styles of gameplay poorly. For example, the first 2 levels are 2D fighting games, and this slap attack is just so slow. There's a full 2 seconds of delay from when you press the button and when it does damage. For reference, Bowser is the slowest character in Melee and is widely regarded as the worst because of it. And even most of his moves are faster than this. Only 6 of his 24 moves come even close to a second. These moves do more damage though, so you can use fast attacks most of the game and then save these heavy hitters when you find an opening. But with Evangelion, sluggish is all you got. So if we attack, you open for 2 seconds where the angel can... This lasts for like a full minute. One time I got hit by 3 of these in a row and I couldn't do anything but sit and wait for the game to let me play it. There's also this sniping game in level 3 where you have to line up the circle with the crosshair, and it's so finicky and precise. Even emulating with the Switch Pro controller I'm struggling. And the N64 controller is notorious for getting loose over time, so if you're playing on an original, I'd imagine it's basically impossible. What's even more basically impossible is level 4 where you have to rapidly mash A and C down button. We're already off to a bad start. For context, I am an ex-Osu player and Minecraft PvPer. I have finger strength beyond what Sonic and the Black Knight intended. And even with all our fancy modern day button mashing techniques, I am barely beating it. I can only imagine what it'd be like for your average kid back then. I still say the game's okay though. Even with the lacking gameplay, they really knew how to work around the N64's limitations to get the game looking amazing. Some other studios use your own creative methods to get N64 games looking great though. Superman 64 famously got around their bad graphics by making it so you can't see them. Starting the game, Lex Luthor tells us we'll never find our friend in his virtual world. That's it. Going to the manual though, we get some more information. It was actually Lex. And Brainiac. He started flying and I actually think it controls pretty well. You have a nice sense of speed, so it'd be really fun to just go blasting around the city. The best use for flying though is to propose. Most of the time when you're flying, you're going through these rings that Lex calls a maze. I hate this. There's times that you try to go fast, but the controller is precise when you do that. So you miss the ring and you have to try to turn around to go back through it. But for some reason in every game that does this ring bullshit, turning controls like ass. I can't say it's the game's fault specifically. Legend of is a similar minigame and I have the same problem there. But at least this is an optional minigame you can skip. Superman 64, you have to do it. And like I said, it's most of the game. And since it's time, you can't just fly around the city and explore, cause oh, you lost! There's also this level you have to pick up a car and throw it, and this other level you have to stop this car from being attacked. Phew. I think I had enough time to see the car before it blew up. Speaking of seeing though, I can't. This is fog. It was used on the N64 to reduce render distance and save processing power. In some games it can actually look really good. Kokiri 4 is not going to time at lots of fog. It was this really nice green color with tiny little sparkles in it. And combined with the surrounding environment, it actually helped build this atmosphere of an enchanted forest. In Superman 64, I feel like I'm playing in a high school bathroom. Although some textures are just ugly, like look at the floor here. It's supposed to be the skyline? Why is it flat? And why is it put next to buildings that are actually modeled? N64 was one of the first 3D consoles, so most studios had a really hard time making games for it. But there was one studio though. One studio that cracked the code and managed to consistently make not only some of the best N64 games of all time, but games that defined their genre. And would you believe it's the people who made Connect Sports Season 2, Conker's Bad Fur Day, Diddy Kong Racing, Donkey Kong 64, Banjo-Kazooie, and Tooie. Also one of the best N64 games, all made by Rare. So when Nintendo got the James Bond license, they knew to trust with it. GoldenEye 64 is the grandfather of the modern FPS. Not only do you have amazing single player levels, there's also the iconic split screen multiplayer. And while I can't try it out due to my no friends and things disease, I spent hours playing Black Ops 3 split screen when I was an age I shouldn't have, and I loved it. And even though it's an early FPS, shooting felt great, but something had to up. You use the left stick to move front and back and the camera left to right. And the right stick to move side to side and the camera up and down. This is not okay. And neither is this. The N64 controller is an unholy abomination. But more importantly, it only has one stick. Probably for the best, cause you know two would look like this. The controls I said were for the right stick are actually for the C button. And to be fair, I think this is the best they could have done with their one stick. Controls might not even be that bad. My puny gamer brain just might not be able to wrap my head around these controls since I'm so used to the traditional ones. N64 so we can see licensed games split between good games and their dog shit. The world's not kind enough to give us black and white, and the grey void gave birth to a boogeyman. A plague on gaming that preys on my mind, and every night that I'm about to go into sleep, sweet embrace, it plays me its haunting symphony.
EA Sports. It's in the game.
EA is a serial licensor. They'd buy the likes of my elbow if they could. And what the hell? Remember I said you could license people like 20 minutes ago? It's because EA did. They have the rights to FIFA Pro, the NBA, the NHL, UFC, and the PGA. Well, anyone can still make a basketball game. They have to use Joe Smucker in the basketball gaggle instead of LeBron James of the NBA. Now, while I haven't played all these games, I have played the most popular in NBA, FIFA, and Madden. And they're alright. Now, for disclaimer, I don't watch sports. It's not because I think, oh, I'm too smart for that. It's just a bunch of grown men kicking around the ball. I'd rather watch something with substance like Mario. I think it's just because I'm too stupid. It's like you want me to keep track of all these people pushing the human body to its limits in one ball at the same time. And that's how I feel playing these sports games. I just run around with the characters and I switch to another character. Sometimes I get the ball, I shoot, I miss. Everyone laughs at me and I spend my high school years alone because I can't ball. Maybe I'm just missing something though, because I get who this appeals to. But if you get the appeal, why did it haunt your nightmares? You ask. Well, I get why they exist. I just don't get why they have to exist so much. A new game, multiple franchises, every year. Wow! And these games are based on real sports, so you can't really shake up the formula much between entries. You can't just make it Mario Strikers one year and have Petro Bagaglianis beat the shit out of Michael Kolbanek. This whole new game every year thing started during the N64 days so they could change out the players. But now, you can just release an update. You don't need to make people pay $80 each year just for a new mediocre game. That just seems like kind of a scam to me. Good thing I'm kind of a sucker. And worst of all are the loot boxes. The Banshee Shriek of EA Silent song. They're a luck-based mechanic in games where you purchase, with your money, an item that had a chance to give you another item. If you don't get the one you want, buy another. You'll do it. You're a bitch. Most games like CSGO and TF2 use them just for cosmetics like knives, and even then I find it kinda scummy. But in EA games you have to purchase packs to get characters. And the best characters are so rare that if you want the best team, you have to spend hundreds of dollars. And keep in mind, this is for a game that lasts 1 year. Next year, you do it again! This model has been around for decades as playing cards, but these resolve as a physical object. You can hold it, look at it, put it on a wall, and if you need a specific card for your deck, you can just buy it from another person who has it. And these are also a scam, but I can admit it. Plus, look at this. This is just an ad. Well, mind you, I paid $80 for this game. You can buy $16.03 fucking Google for that much. Ignoring EA, though, licensed games during the N64 times were a constant swinging pendulum of some of the best games on the system, like DuckTales and GoldenEye, and other dog like E.T. and Superman 64. And going into the PS2, GameCube, and Xbox generation, there was no way of telling which way the pendulum would swing. Oh. Ice Age, iCarly, Beyblade, Cars 2, Cars made us tall tales. From the beginning of the 2000s to around 2012 was the era of movie tie-in games. Seemingly every movie or TV show to release during this time had a licensed game coming out right next to it. Some of them were good. Simpsons Hit and Run has a lot of fans, and SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom got an HD remake. But most of them fall into the dreaded category of shovelware. Games made to be cheap and easy to produce. So allow me to welcome you to Commander's Crash Course on making a movie tie-in game in the early 2000s. First you gotta pick out random from the popular genres tab. Racing it is. Next you gotta decide where to release the game. The PS2 is always a good option. It's the most popular home console of all time after all. But then there's the Xbox 360, and that's current gen. That's way more powerful. But of course you got the tie-ins of shovelware of the Wii and DS. They're not quite as powerful, but that makes them way cheaper to develop for. And of course, they have such a large casual audience, meaning we can sell to dumb, stupid f***ing kids. It's a hard choice. So I think I'm just gonna go with all of them. Then you just mush together a bunch of jagged 3D models, sew together something for the DS. It'll be an entirely different game than the console versions, but they don't have to know that. And then, BAM! Well, I already have this license, so let's try out Cars for the Wii. I used to have it for the Xbox, and then one day my dad's friend bought it for some reason and broke it. Now I personally don't find it very hard to not break child's video games. But hey, some grown men do apparently. So instead I'm going with the Wii. That's disgusting. Did they really not find a high quality picture of the movie to put here? At least a good quality Wiimote. So we started out having a race in Radiator Springs. For all those f***ing losers who don't own hundreds of cars, racing so Lightning McQueen gets stuck in the town of Radiator Springs after destroying their roads and having to repave them as community service. And in the process he learns how to not be a dick. No one else in the town can race though besides the old blue car. So my emotion's already broken. The race was really easy even though I didn't know how to drift. But every sharp turn I'd end up that. I won the race with ease. And afterwards we found out it was all a dream. McQueen decides he wants to make it real though. Why? I spent half the race ramming into this old man's car. This isn't safe. We do it anyway though. Oh, move over, Breath of the Wild. There's a new open world in town. You can visit different shops the way you spring and even drive the first track. I should probably go to the first race though. Oh. It turned out you can just push any car in the game. So I decided to kidnap this guy. I got him all the way to the road until Meta distracted me and he despawned. Then you go back to the original location. Just despawned. I'd feel bad if it was a British person. Race 2 is more the same thing, so let's go to Race 3 and it's the same thing again. While racing's pretty lackluster, there's a few other things you can do. This made us tractor tipping and they try to hide from friends, and this guy scared the piss out of me as a kid. And it didn't make sense for Cars to be a racing game unlike something like Garfield Cars. It made so much sense, they decided to do it again. Cars 2 is another racing game. Just a racing game. They got rid of the open world and replaced it with menus, and more menus. So many menus, this is the one game I can't run on Dolphin without an extreme amount of lag. So we're rocking with the classic camera pointed at a TV. If you manage to make your way to a race, you'll see that this is fundamentally Cars 1 again. But this time they added a little spice by adding items. I actually like this. It makes sense and Cars 2 made it become the spy and gets access to all these futuristic items. Although I think they're kind of bland. In Mario Kart you get Koopa shells to throw at enemies and lightning bolts to shrink them. In Cars 2 made it get the machine gun. Going back to Cars 1 we have Cars for the DS. This time being a minigame collection. It also sucks. Minigame collections are so hard to get right. Seems like Mario Party able to pull it off because they put, care and effort into making original and fun games. Licensed games don't do that. They just take a couple of the most generic minigames you could think of and slap movie characters on them. We have Memory Game with a car that does not weave, another Memory Game with a car that breakdances, and a game where you rub cars to fill them with gas. I feel dirty. If you beat all the minigames, you can unlock more by playing this racing game, which, if they had one coded, why isn't the rest of the game like this? Also, there's this one game you play this forklift Guido and have to stack tires, and I despise it. There's wind that can throw your tires off course so it never feels accurate. There's a considerable amount of delay when throwing. You can't control Guido, so if you miss a throw, you have to wait like 5 more seconds for him to get back in a position where you can even attempt a proper throw. Sometimes the tire lands perfectly on the stack and it just doesn't stay put for some reason, and worst of all, they didn't account for the space between the two DS screens. Most DS games that use both screens as one big screen basically act like all the stuff that should be between them still is, it's just blocked by the hinge. That's why if you play a game like Yoshi's Island DS on an emulator, it looks like a chunk of the screen is missing. A lot of third-party games never figured this out though. They just use both screens as one big screen and it just feels wrong. It feels like the tire is randomly jumping up when it goes between the screens. Like look at the stack, one's under the hinge and then one's above it. Realistically, one should be between, but there isn't, it just feels wrong. They even fixed this problem in a different minigame where you have to sort Lightning's trophies as they fall on a map of the truck. The trophies take a second or so to go from the top screen to the bottom screen. So they knew about this problem and how to fix it, and just didn't bother.
That's right, I don't like how Cars DS uses the door screen, and I won't be silent!
Another game in the mini-game collection genres, I call it DS, and oh boy if it's not worse. There's this one mini-game where they have to point a flashlight to find missing chicks, like in that one episode where they have to find missing chicks, and we see a lot of Spencer ass. Or this one we have to put noses on the sculpture Mary Sniffness, or this one we have to throw paintball at a sculpture, and all of these just make me feel slightly uncomfortable. All the art in this game just has a slight offness that makes my skin crawl. They also have these dialogue segments where I think the characters are supposed to be texting each other. While these profile pictures still make me kind of uncomfortable, I can at least admire that they made original art. Most licensed games don't do that. They instead use this creative sprite making technique. We've come right back around to using images from the source material. And now we can do it without that much of a loss in quality. And I hate it! This whole picture of the Chaos District can be done good. Persona does it well, but Persona makes everything look good. Even when things like the Sonic DS games did this, it still felt kind of tacky. And it doesn't help when instead of Sonic, it's Jenga from Beyblade. Beyblade's about something, I don't really know. A bunch of kids have a tournament with the spinning tops. This guy's dead, then he's not, then he wants to World Beyblade Association. This guy turned into a dragon, that blew my mind as a child. This is one of those shows that doesn't really need a plot. Because it's not actually a show, it's just a 30-minute ad for a toy. So if the anime can sell toys, why couldn't it sell a game? Beyblade No Masters is a fighting game where you fight with the Beyblade. It gives you access to a bunch of characters from the anime and their Beyblades. It even lets you customize them like you can with real ones. Although I do feel like I'm being sort of gateway drug here. One minute you're playing DS, the next, this is your life. It has a bunch of different stats I don't really understand, but in my experience, all that really matters is the attack. There's a few different ones like this jump up attack or this laser, or the best one, this screw attack. Allow me to show you how it works. Enough of that, the want of the story mode. Oh boy, PNGs! You can unlock a bunch of characters, but as far as I can tell, they're all just BNGs from the anime. Except for this one guy, Takeru, who is exclusive to Beyblade games for some reason. You pick 3 of them, and whichever one you pick first, you play through their story. I'm gonna pick Jinga since he's the main character, so I got plot armor. We see a background taken from the anime, and I'll told to go the Beyblade World Championship. Each round you have 3 characters, fight another 3 characters. You gotta mash some buttons to control your base speed, stamina, and timing. You fight, rinse, and repeat for 4 rounds until you reach the final boss. This is a unique sprite since he's not in the anime. We beat him, and you become the dinosaur to the Battle of Children's toy. And before you ask, no, this doesn't work in your life. I tried. Wow. You don't have the dinosaur though, the fight's almost identical. And that's the inner Jinga's story. Next, let's try Masamune because, I don't know, I trust his face. A kid told us to join the tournament. We go there, do 4 rounds, and you know, it's a shock in the second time. And then the story's over. But you know what? I'll try another character. And another, and another, and another, and that's all of them. They all have the same story. There are 3 other versions. Oddly enough, it's listed to different stores. And then there's a 4th collector's edition. So let's see what Toys R Us has to offer. It's the same game. They're all the same game except for slightly different characters. The Target version. That one has the same characters as the original. Copy and paste from the same game 4 times and saying them as different games in a franchise? Who does that? Let's move on. Onto a season unlike Beyblade always delivers quality. Ice Age is about animals during the Ice Age. Ice Age 2 though had the twist. The ice is melting. Going into it, oh boy! PNGs from the movie, my favorite! During each stage you have to save all the animals. This combined with the top-down view makes it kinda like Sonic's 3D Blast. Based off that, you can tell how good it is. You have to save them all before the time limit runs out. You can collect snowflakes to increase the time, but once it runs out, the screen fades to white. White makes me think a snowstorm came in though, and the level's melting. Shouldn't it be like yellow from the sun? You can switch between Manny, Sid, and Diego, who all have different abilities needed to beat the level. And I guess I couldn't find the right one, because no matter how many times I tried, I couldn't beat the level. I could just look at a walkthrough, but I'll be letting a mediocre Ice Age game get the best of me. If a Go Nuts mode, maybe there's more information. Ice Age 3, Dawn of the Dinosaurs. Do you have to make a plot summary for this one? Like, take a wild f***ing guess. This game is actually the first platform in a while. With it being the most common type of licensed game, it's weird they haven't talked about one for so long. I don't have much to say about this game. It's not much unique. You fight a dinosaur, but I already thought out a Beyblade ago. This game is just boring. And that's the state licensed games will end for most of this generation. I can try my best to talk about how I don't like iCarly's art style, how Beyblade's customization is cool, or how much I hate that stupid fucking Guido minigame in Cars, but I'm really scraping the bottom of the barrel to get there. Because the truth is, most of these games, there's just not much to say about them. But there is one exception. One company that during the darkest hour of licensed games still managed to make quality games fondly remembered during the childhoods of those everywhere. Lego. Lego is one of those rare companies that consistently deliver quality. They make their books damn near indestructible. They have one of the most iconic toy stores in the world. They've made multiple great animated movies, and of course have been making beloved licensed games for decades. I was never really into the Lego games. My only experience was Lego Batman 2, DC Superheroes. I begged my mom to get this for me, and Toys R Us got to this level with the car, couldn't beat it, and gave up. Because of this, when I saw so many people talking so fondly about the Lego Star Wars games, I thought it must have been some kind of meme. There's no way Lego the toy company made a good licensed Star Wars game. But they did. There's just something about them that really captures the feeling of you being a kid playing with your Legos, acting out the cutscenes as their silly character moments. And I feel like that's why they include these segments where you build with Lego. In the universe, if you just rearrange the fundamental building blocks of reality, well, anarchy here we come. But when looked at from the perspective of a kid building the playset as they go along, it makes sense. The gameplay itself, though, can feel kind of shallow at times. There's these platforming puzzle segments, and they're pretty fun. But there's also a lot of segments where the game just kind of puts you in a room with a bunch of enemies, and it's like, okay, now fight them. And I'm like, thanks. But all I can do is block in one attack, so I kind of don't want to. Most of the time, I just end up mashing buttons until the enemies beat me to death. Thankfully, you respawn right where you died, but you lose some studs, and without my studs, I go on. There's also a DS version that, unlike other DS versions of licensed console games, isn't an entirely different thing. But it's also not the same thing either. It's this odd middle step that feels like they really wanted to just straight port the game, but couldn't because of the DS's limitations. The levels all feel a little less 3D, just a little shallower, and the already simple cutscenes had to be simplified even more. It does still feel like the same game though, and even though I don't remember playing it much, when I went back to it, I was hit by such an intense wave of nostalgia I didn't know it there. And clearly a lot of other people felt that, cause they made a new Lego Star Wars game for the sequel trilogy, and this is beautiful. I can't believe this is a licensed Lego game. And all the cutscenes have been remade with full voice-acted dialogue while still keeping a similar sense of humor. So if it worked at Star Wars, why not try another franchise? They made a lot more Lego games, but none of them really struck a chord with people like the Lego Star Wars games did. I saw a lot of people hyped for the Skywalker saga, but none of you better than I when Lego Incredibles released in 2018. I think it's because none of these games really did anything to stand out. The combat already felt shallow, so when they just kept remaking it, it got still fast. There was just nothing really making these feel like different games. So why not don't? Lego Dimension combined a bunch of existing Lego franchises and some never seen before. This was the first time we got Sonic Lego. Oh? You don't have a sword though. Why do I bother? This was your one-stop shop for everything Lego. Too bad I never played it. The reason being, this is a Toys to Life game. If you wanted new characters, vehicles, or even Lego worlds to play in, you had to buy them on top of the base game. This was one of the best ideas for a Toys to Life game. Lego's literally a toy company, and these games already feel like a kid playing with Lego virtually. So a game that literally lets you build with Lego, and then play it on the screen, was the perfect logical extreme for Lego games. I felt bad asking my parents to spend all that money on Lego, especially after making them take out a second mortgage on Disney Infinity. Disney has two things: an iconic loss of characters and an insatiable lust for money. So it makes sense to jump on the Toys to Life trend. At least instead of having to buy the multiple Disney licensed games like before, just to buy the 1, 2... Oh, okay, silly. Each game has their own focus. The original focuses on Pixar, 2.0 is Marvel, and 3.0 features Star Wars. But I don't think that's why they did this. I think they did this so they could sell multiple $100 starting packs. You can't tell me 2.0 and 3.0 couldn't have just been updates. Even the names make it sound like Disney's going, this is just an upgrade, not some fancy new game. But then older sets aren't compatible with the newer games. Speaking of which, isn't it enough that they made 3 different games? They split each game into different playsets, and you can't play as a character from one set in a different playset. So what Disney expects people to do is go to the store, buy the expensive starter pack, because it just isn't enough. You need the portal thing to place the characters on. Oh no though, the starter pack is the Avengers playset, and you want to play Spider-Man. Then I have to go back to the store and buy the Spider-Man playset. But whoops, Iron Man doesn't work here, so you have to go back out again and buy Spider-Man. Now you can play. Characters being exclusive to one set doesn't even make sense. They're clearly designed to be toys in universe, so if you want to capture the feeling of the Lego games where you're a kid playing with all your toys, why do they think the kid would go, no, Iron Man and Spider-Man don't mix. Iron Man lives in New York, and Spider-Man lives in New York. While playing though, you can collect character tokens. It's like you play as a character from a different set. So the kid's okay with it if we pay him off. I think the reason for this comes back to Disney's lust for money. Oh, you want a certain character's ability in a set? Well, you can't have them, but you can have this almost identical character that is for that set. No, it's basically just Iron Man, but you can play as him in Spider-Man. They have to separate the sets just for him. This was all for nothing if people don't buy Nova. And if you don't know what a Nova or White Tiger is, first off, ha! Second off, that's because this game is based off the Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon, since Disney didn't have the rights to use Spider-Man in the MCU yet. Why the Avengers playset is based off the Avengers a separate cartoon though, the world may never know. My parents got luckier than a lot of others, since we only cared about the Marvel characters. That saved us on a third and fourth mortgage, but we still begged for a ton of characters. We would play this game all the time. Which is weird, since we never beat any of the playsets. The playsets all had a simple story that could be beaten in around 2 hours. But that's simple in the Lego game style where it's more comedic and fun. Simple as it's boring. Also, the fun we had was just us f***ing around in the open world, flying and web swinging around. Which is exactly what I said Superman 64 should have done. Fix up the flying control a bit, remove the time limit, and I get f***ed around. Next time they release Superman 64, I'll make sure they do it right. Although I don't think we needed 2 open world areas based on New York. I can literally see Avengers Tower in the Spider-Man playset, but it just won't let me go there. We could have easily just combined these into one massive set. The Guardians of the Galaxy one was a little more interesting. I never played that one, so we're not talking about it. And outside of flying around, there's not even much to do in these open worlds. There's a few missions, a story I would rather die than do, and a few enemies scattered about, but not nearly enough. You can upgrade your character, so at some point you just end up with an unstoppable monster. And it can be a lot of fun to just let loose and wail about on enemies. But they don't give you enough to do that with. So what I would do, I would go into the sandbox and spawn a bunch of enemies and let loose there. The sandbox is the big draw of Disney Infinity. An area where you can create your own levels. You were smart, but we found it too hard, so we would just spawn one of the presets and out there too. The sandbox was the only place in the game where you could use all the characters. And oddly enough, since the Disney and Pixar characters didn't get their own set, they were basically stuck here. You're really gonna tell this face he can't be a Guardian of the Galaxy? The best part of the toy box though was the violence. There were some spots in the playset where you can make the characters fight, but it was only in that one location and there was already preset rules, so too regulated. But in the playset you can grab any 2 characters and start beating the shit out of each other. I had this Captain America who was overpowered. Anytime I convinced someone to play with me, they would instantly regret it as I absolutely bullied them. I would hang back throwing my shield at them, knocking them off balance, and if they ever got too close, I would just... There was also a mobile version released that was just the sandbox and you can only play the few characters. For some reason I download this every few months and think, oh boy, all the fun of Disney Infinity on the go. Then I realized I don't know how to use the sandbox and deleted the next day out of disappointment. I have to say, all the fun I described is probably just nostalgia talking. I can't really call it a good game since the playsets, the main part of the game you're supposed to spend your time on, are just kinda boring. And in a time period where licensed games are already forming into one blob of boringness in my mind, combining them into one game didn't really help. And it does not hold up compared to what we spent our first mortgage on. Something happened during the time of Disney Infinity though. Without Disney leading the charge with movie tie-in games or licensed games in general, they began to die off. They went from being an inevitability to something you'd rarely see. Something killed the licensed game, and the prime suspect? Mobile gaming. Not only were mobile games cheaper to produce, but by 2015 when Disney Infinity 3.0 released, everyone already had a smartphone. Parents didn't need to buy their dumb stupid kids a game to keep them entertained. And why would they when they could just hand them their phone for free and let that entertain them? Well, for one, there's that. Most licensed mobile games are free. And of course that comes with my worst nightmare, in-game purchases. These games have the packs of EA, the characters of Disney Infinity, and some new mobile game bullshit like paying to remove ads or refill energy to play more. This is all to prey on kids. Entice them with shiny colors, and then when mom's not looking, BAM! They spend $200 on hero chip crates. You can't really blame the kids though. They barely know what money is, let alone when they spend it. And these games try to add another further layer of separation. But instead of having you buy the item directly, having you buy some kind of premium currency like diamonds, and then buying the item with that. And there's no better example of this than of course Fortnite. While it didn't start off as a licensed game, after becoming the most popular thing for a while, everyone wanted a slice of that Fortnite pie. And after adding the Avengers, Star Wars, Rick and Morty, Naruto, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, I feel it's safe to say it's kind of retroactively become one. If you play for free, you get the default skin. Good guy, unoffensive, but if you show up to the virtual Ariana Grande concert like this, you look a fool. So you go to the item shop to buy a new character skin. But you need V-Bucks, since 2,000 V-Bucks is a lot more reasonable than $20. all you get is a new character model. While people like to hate on Fortnite a lot, saying that it got worse than it used to be, because it has. Well, a lot of the license crap they've been adding in makes the game feel tacky, because it does. I still say it deserves a lot of credit for how fun it used to be in the early seasons. And honestly, it is kind of fun. All the licensed characters make it feel kind of like Smash Bros. The shooter. And to the licensed games for kids, it's still a whole lot better than what other companies are offering. Disney and Marvel have their handful of RPGs with a bunch of characters. And a lot of licensed mobile games are just rip-offs of other popular games. Minion Rush is literally just Subway Surfers. I feel like this should be plagiarism. But these games are technically free, so parents aren't being tricked into buying bad games. At least with the older licensed games, they felt like games. These just feel like hollow experiences designed to separate kids from their money with microtransactions. And once most licensed games moved to mobile, consoles were left basically abandoned. For the first time in decades, licensed console games were better than ever! With all the cheap cash grabs moving to mobile, if you wanted to stick to console, you had to make it feel justified. With games that could stand alongside actual video game franchises. The pioneer of this was Spider-Man PS4. It has a great story that I feel wouldn't work as well if it wasn't a video game. Spoilers for Spider-Man 2 and Spider-Man PS4, by the way. But I got a lot more attached to Otto Octavius while playing the game than I did when watching Spider-Man 2. Because since I was controlling Peter, it didn't feel like he was giving Peter a new suit. It felt like he was giving it to me. He felt like my mentor, and me being more attached made him becoming Doc Ock hurt all the more. The biggest downfall of the game though is the open world. When you're just swinging around, the buildings can kinda blend together like in Disney Infinity. But unlike Disney Infinity, they fill the world with loads of criminals to stop. And the combat is just so much fun with so many different combos and special moves to try. The combat is so good that, spoilers for No Way Home in 3, 2, 1. They put this finisher from the game in the movie. Spider-Man is another one of those franchises I mentioned that consistently deliver quality. The Sam Raimi trilogy was a burst of a modern superhero movie. No Way Home is one of the best superhero movies in my opinion. Into the Spider-Verse is a stunningly beautiful animated movie. And this isn't even their first great licensed game. Spider-Man 2 was considered to be one of the best licensed games before this modern renaissance. You could say most of this also applies to Batman, with it having some of the best superhero movies in the Batman and the Dark Knight trilogy, Lego Batman being a great animated movie, and the Arkham Knight games being must-have licensed games far before Spider-Man PS4 release. But I like Spider-Man, so Spider-Man PS4 kicked off a revolution in licensed games. Multiverses and Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl found a space in the fighting game community. Kingdom Hearts is an insanely beloved JRPG franchise featuring Disney characters that I forgot to talk about until now. And Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order is really enjoyable, especially considering it was made by EA. Now there are still lackluster licensed games on console. Even the bubonic plague shows up now and again. But with the worst cash grabs being on mobile, and consoles having some great licensed games, rather than swinging wildly, I think the pendulum's finally found some balance. And then there's EA being EA. I think I figured it out. The best licensed games have a reason to be licensed. Whether it's to really put you in a beloved world like Spider-Man PS4, or to do something interesting with the franchise's elements like multiverses. And that's what I've been missing from my license. I just had to have it when I need something to do with it. That'll do.